curator for Fanos Connect. I'm so glad that you guys are all here. For those of you to whom Fanos is new, it's an innovation platform that invests in talent and promotes entrepreneurship to drive economic progress. And Fanos Connect is one of its platforms that brings together thought leaders, forward thinkers to discuss ideas and bring solutions, because who likes living 2 days that are the same? So last time we did a panel on supercharging the startup scene and discussed how we can make it more inclusive and productive. And this is our second session. And it's themed the Creative Pulse to discuss how we can leverage the creative arts, media, and communications to create opportunities and influence. So it's kind of a celebration of the power of these industries, but also a discussion on their future. And leading this conversation will be our esteemed panels from all these 3 industries. And Aida Abraham will be setting the stage for, Aida Ashenafi, sorry, will be setting the stage for this discussion. So she is a producer, filmmaker, director, editor with a background in film and visual arts, and she brings a wealth of experience in production and is the managing director of Mango Productions. And she's created for multiple global brands such as Nike, Panasonic, all the brands that we know, and also have been involved in creating music videos for a lot of large artists and has a global experience from New York to Addis. And we're very honored to have her to do the keynote. So please join me in welcoming her to the stage. It is. We're. Sorry.
So, in 2009, this is a journalist called Rob Walker, and he decides to see if there was a way to quantify the value of a story. So what he does is he goes on eBay. I don't know if you have my slide. So he goes on eBay. Does everybody know what eBay is? Or does anybody not know what eBay is? Okay. So eBay is a place where you go buy all these knickknacks or whatever you want to buy. So he goes on eBay and he buys 200 items, kind of ridiculous, silly items like a plastic banana or a coffee cup and so forth and so on. It's like things like this. So he pays $129 for all of these. Then what he does is he goes out and he asks 200 journalists to write a story to go with one of these pictures, one of these items. So let's say, somebody might have a story about a mug, or so forth and so on. So after he has a story for each of these items, he decides to put it back on eBay, right? And how much do you think he sold it for? He bought it for $129. How much do you think he sold it for? Anyone guess? More or less? So it's the same exact item, right? So he sold it for $8,000, right? So it was a very interesting way to see if you can quantify stories. And then I think the question becomes, why does this happen? Why are stories so powerful? And it doesn't matter if it's in a movie or if it's in leadership or anything you want. Sorry, I have a cheat sheet today. Well, this funny things happen when you hear a story. And these are kind of chemical hormones that are released into your brain. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to get very sciencey or anything like that, but real things happen inside your brain that make you connect to things when you hear a story. So the four major ones are cortisol, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. And each one of these is kind of released by a different tactic, like a different storytelling tactic. So endorphins basically is known as the happy hormone, right? So you got to be funny. Story has to be funny for that to work. On my way over here, I wasn't sure if I was going to tell the story, I think I'm going to share, and it's not exactly a very happy story, but hopefully it will make the point I'm trying to make. When I was in college, a couple of friends and I decided we were going to go spend a month in Europe. And the whole vacation was centered around this one party that was happening in London. So the plan was to fly into London, go to the countryside, take the ferry over to France. Back then they didn't have the tunnel, and then come back to London for this party. So we get to London, and I had never really driven on the other side of the street before. And it was a Sunday, so it was not so busy. We get to Heathrow, and I'm kind of super hyper focused on making sure I stay on the left side of the road. So we get out to the countryside, and we're kind of in a groove. My friend is sleeping next to me, and the phone rings. And I know instinctively it's my mother, because I forgot to tell her that we got in safe. So I lean over to grab the phone kind of falls. My friend wakes up, grabs me the phone, hands me the phone. I'm talking to my mom, and just instinctively, without thinking about it, I started going to what we think is the right side of the road. So I hear this kind of car kind of behind me, kind of beeping and kind of going crazy. I'm just thinking, I don't know what's going on. And there's this tunnel that we're about to go in. And, well, I'm not going to finish the story. Sorry about that. But what happens when you tell a story like this is it releases cortisone and dopamine, right? Cortisone is the stress hormone. When you hear the story, you start stressing. Probably some of you people already skipped ahead and couldn't finish the story. And then, dopamine is the focus hormone. So that literally gets released in your brain. So the fourth kind of thing that gets released in your brain is oxytocin. Oxytocin is kind of the trust hormone, right? And this gets released when you tell stories that have empathy, right? So the more empathy your story has, the more people can connect to it. There's two really, really crazy studies that I know about. And one of them was out of Princeton. So measuring the wave movement of a storyteller to a story listener. And what happens is, as the story moves along, literally, their brain waves literally sync up to the same exact movement. So that means when I am telling a story, the person I'm telling it to, if I tell it well, that is literally sunk up to my brain, right? So when your friend comes and tells you about this awesome kids what they had, of course your mouth is going to water because you're feeling what they're feeling. The other kind of crazy experiment is, so they had a bunch of people, like 50 people in one room, 50 people in another room, and they put headphones on everybody, and everybody was listening to the same exact story at the same exact time. And guess what happens? Every person's heartbeat synchronizes within 30 seconds. So that power of a story. Imagine how powerful that is. For good or bad, yeah? For good or bad. When you tell a story, it's a way to get somebody from where they are to where you want them to be. So for me, it's very difficult to reach a full potential without at least learning how to be a better storyteller. Whether you're trying to get a bunch of kids excited about a trip to the zoo, or you're trying to get your sales team to sell a whole bunch of things, or you're trying to motivate the youth of a nation, whatever it is, I think the power of stories is everybody has stories. I think the thing is, you just have to learn how to tell good stories. And they are structured and designed so possible to learn how to tell the stories. That's it. And by the way, that story I told you was not real, okay?
Thank you so much, Aida. To move on to our panel, I'm going to be welcoming Bezawit Damtew, who's going to be moderating our panel. So Bezawit is a versatile and vibrant industry professional. Her experience spans from communications, film, and now in the creative economy, where she leads arts programs at the British Council. And I'm very glad that she's here to lead this conversation. So join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, Boni, for the introduction. It's kind of hard to speak after Aida. She has really set the standard. But I would like to introduce her first and welcome her to the panel. Aida Ashenafi. Anywhere. Thank you. She is the managing director at Mango Productions. Really? Boni. The Journey, 138 minutes feature film capturing the authentic rural life of Sada. So, Sadala. Okay, perfect. We'll be hearing more about her journey as we go through the panel. And next up, I want to introduce Nazrawi. He is a leader in the creative arts, communication, and media. He seamlessly blended design, music composition, strategy, and media leadership throughout his career. Currently, as a co-founder and CEO at Ghana TV and Ethiopian Metropolitan Gallery, he has been instrumental in reshaping Ethiopia's media landscape. At the forefront of innovation, Nazrawi Ghebreselasie lives a blended, remarkable, and he has dedicated to the original and impactful creative journey of all Ethiopians. I'd like to welcome you to the panel, please. Next up, we have Samuel Bekele, who is a social entrepreneur and communication specialist that is known for pushing boundaries when it comes to public relations, marketing, advertising in Ethiopia. He is the founder of Spotlight Communications and Marketing, on top of communications agency in Ethiopia, marked by the dynamic communication strategies that shares in his vision to transformative endeavors that lead the change. Sam, to the panel, please. Hi, chef. I didn't do yours yet. Okay. Okay, so I guess we're doing. Last but not least, Mati stands as a visionary leader in design, innovation, and marketing with remarkable 7-year tenure as the founder and director of Design Week Addis Ababa. Mati has been at the front of fostering creativity and innovation. Her role involved in spreading groundbreaking work, setting the stage for innovation and driven landscape. Now serving as the creative director at the newly introduced Ding Multimedia, Metasabe continues to shape the creative industry with her visionary approach. Mati. Thank you, everyone, for accepting the invitation and for giving us your time to be here. I would like to ask the first question for all of you. So if you can take us through your creative journey of founding your companies, what are the inspirations, what has brought you here to this day to live your passion? So maybe if you can take us through the highlight of your journeys and how you have become.
Thank you for having me. So I, moved to Addis Ababa about 10 years ago. I'd also written my book, A Culture of Coffee. And when I came to be a creative, to start my own brand, my own project. And I think what I noticed when I first came was the lack of a kind of environment or climate that would foster kind of creativity. So that's what kind of led me to start Design Week Addis Ababa, because we wanted to create an event that would bring different creatives, multidisciplinary creatives together to showcase and create networking opportunities for each other. So for the past, 10 years or so, I've been working on that respectively. So my background is multidisciplinary. It's on communication, culture, and technology. So for the past, I guess, decade or so, I've been working for either tech companies or creative and marketing or comms. So in different ways, I've been kind of touching upon these fields.
Hello? Okay. No, I came to Addis about 20 years ago. I actually came here accidentally. My father was ill, so I came to be with him. So I kind of fell into the creative, well, before that I used to be in New York, by the way. Yeah. So I made a bunch of feature films in New York, a bunch of commercials, a bunch of music videos. As a producer, I was working mostly as a producer. And then when I came here, I kind of saw a gap for my skill set. I think that's how I kind of started. I had no intentions of coming here. So I was running this company called Cactus Advertising. And then after that, a whole bunch of things happened. I think probably the biggest project I've done is probably Yenya. I think what makes me proud about Yenya, the original Yenya, that is, what makes me proud is we had every discipline, from from writers to, not just script writers, but music writers to production designers to wardrobe people to costume people. We got to build sets. We went to this huge hotel and built, a bunch of sets in there. I think we employed about 1,500 people full time for about 6 years. So I'm very proud of that job. And I'm now a YouTuber.
Thanks for it. Hello. Can we get the mid-range up a little bit and lower the low end? Right, guys? It's huh? Hello? Brother man. Mid-range ትንሽ ጨምርና ከዛ low end ቤዙን ቀንሰው. Hello. Right? No, it's still not good. Okay. Yeah. Okay, anyhow, my okay. When I think of my life, it's been like I hopped on this ride and a lot has been happening on the road accidentally. So I've been very fortunate to come across opportunities that I seized. My background by school was actually physics and graduate school in mathematics. I'm a big science, geeky science lover. And then at some point, fast forward a little bit, I was doing some work for Soros Foundation, which got me to travel all over Africa. And then on April Fool's Day, I got into a very bad bus accident in Uganda. Letting the office know that there was a bus accident on April 1st was really hard because they didn't believe me. It took quite a while because it was April 1st, didn't hit me in the head. But then I decided to make a stop over to Ethiopia and met up with Addis Alamayo, and most of you wouldn't know, we started 251 Communications together, which led into the journey towards starting Ghana. But during the fruitful years of all the agency work that we did, even early work with Yenya as well, we were doing so much problem solving for our clients. And I love that problem solving component, which led us to where we are today, launching one of the biggest TV stations, which most of you might not realize we have 65% local content. 65% is local. Huh? Dubbed is 35%. What are you laughing at? It's true. Because I get really passionate saying that statistic. So that's a story of my life today.
My name is Johannes Ghebreyesus. You guys know me under the alias Chef Johannes, I guess. My background is arts. I studied visual arts in France before I actually studied culinary arts. But I had a gap of a year in between. I was very experimental with my life as well. So I really studied what I loved. So after my visual arts degree, I came back to Ethiopia to open a bar with a friend of mine and just look at the land to open a bar. So I opened a bar when I was 22, with a friend of mine, and we were just checking the landscape and seeing how people are, really trying to understand how the market is, how many people I know. And I realized that doing art would have been very limiting with the platform I was taught on. So I figured I would do art on food, which would actually touch everyone since it's a basic necessity. So I returned to France to study culinary arts at the Paul Bocuse Institute. Finishing that, I went to the US to continue my training in the hospitality sector, but at the same time I did a master's in social psychology, which really helped me shape my ideas in terms of managing my clients, but also managing my team. Well, since then, I've had a lot of opportunities coming back to Ethiopia and having started the Chef Johannes TV show. I was introduced massively to the audience, but also to various stakeholders in my industry, including Ethiopian Airlines, Hyatt Regency, where I featured signature menus. Before I published my first book with Ashet Group in 2019. I'm very lucky to have won a couple of awards. I launched my company about 5 years ago, and we've launched 2 restaurants and 2 fish butcheries since then.
Chef forgot to mention he won the James Beard Award and the Julia Child Award. So the James Beard Award is the Oscar equivalent of the culinary industry, so you might want to clap for him a little bit. It's crazy that nobody in Ethiopia do not recognize that, and we're so proud of you, buddy. Again, we're just starting out. We have veterans here. I'm just a rookie who's just starting out with communications and marketing works. If Aida was still in work and if she's not doing her YouTube or whatever creative stuff that she's into these days, we'd be out of job by now. So we're extremely grateful, Aida. So yeah, so I remember reading an article about Aida back in New Year of 2016. I think, was it on Capital or The Reporter? I don't know if you remember that. I remember she said, they asked her what her favorite website was. And she said she doesn't like websites except for the shopping ones. That's how in great details that I read it. And she's like, and the whole time I was like, imagine like Backstreet Boys and R. Kelly. I know none of you like R. Kelly anymore, but still, she produced some of the videos. So it's really exciting to understand that we're working or following in the footsteps of legendary individuals like Aida and Naz. I remember my first encounter with Naz. I don't know if he remembers it. I went to pick up a check at his office, and there's this mad scientist who's writing all over the place. There's like quadratic equation or whatever, integration and limits. I don't know what the hell is going on, but he was writing everything all over the place. And then there was this poor girl who wanted to be interviewed. And this guy, he's doing creative here, he's doing strategy here. Like he's all over the place. I'm just trying to pick up my check and Blaine is not writing them fast enough. And little did I know, he turned around, all right, you're here for the job, all right. He stood there in front of everybody. And I remember what he says because I still say it today. Don't I say this for everybody here at Spotlight? He goes like, here at 251, we don't produce or manufacture products. We sell ideas. She was like, I don't think I want this job anymore. Like he interviewed the girl in front of everybody. So looking at people like Naz and Aida, especially I say I only have one mentor in this country, and I'm really proud of it, and it's Naz, and Chef Johannes says the same thing. Some of the things that he says, we actually take it to heart, and we come back to our laboratories, and we experiment with them. We don't give him any credit or money, but they work. So I just want to say, instead of talking about my journey, since I'm a rookie in this conversation, I just want to say how grateful I am to sit on this panel with Naz, Aida, Chef, and everybody. Such an honor, yeah.
Okay, Sam, you didn't tell us your journey, but it was nice telling us the story behind how it has to be. And from what I have heard from all of you, I think the most important thing for creatives is to experiment, to try something different, to be daring and to not be afraid and to keep it consistent. It's like you have to keep pushing and trying new things. So for my next question, it's going to be for Aida and Mati. I would like to reflect on your career and what has the evolution of the industry been so far from what you have experienced, and how has that influenced in the perception of media and creativity? So how has it evolved, and what's your perception in terms of media and communications affecting the growth of the creative economy?
I mean, I think things have really, in our sector, I think things have grown quite a bit. I think what's frustrating still is that people don't think you have to work as hard as you would work on any other profession. I think somehow people have this thing in their head that they can be good in 10 minutes. They know where I come from, to be a DP, which is the guy who shoots the film. You're an apprentice, you're an assistant camera for 10 years. So I think what I'm proud of and how it's evolved is Caldwell's book, and he did this experiment where he took a bunch of violinists, and then the people who had practiced 3,000 hours since they began were good enough. The people who did 5,000 hours were good enough to be teachers. And anybody who's a real expert in whatever field it is minimum of 10,000 hours. So in that theory, he extrapolated that and applied it to all kinds of, from the guy who makes the walls to the woman who makes the carpet to anything. So I think this notion that you have to put in the time to get good at something and you get better, I still learn every single day. I'm learning something new. Like I still have so much more to learn, you know? So I think that the longer the people people stick around, the more people see that you got to put in the time to get where you need to get to. And I think that part of the evolution has been nice. You see assistant cameras, you'll see a prop guy. Before it's like some kid who's never done anything is the whatever, you know, you're like, so I think that's the big improvement I've seen.
I think for me, I mentioned the climate wasn't very hospitable for the creatives, there wasn't really a creative industry per se. Everyone was very segmented, kind of spread out, and so this is why I felt like the need for the platform to pull people together, to showcase and cross-pollinate and collaborate. So when I started, and especially, Design Week is an international event that happens all over the world. So when Design Weeks happen in other countries, the government is behind it, there's funders, there's different kinds of support. Here, when I started looking for support for Design Week, it started with design, the word design, defining design for people 10 years ago, which was a very foreign concept. Now, design is everywhere. Design is in every salon, in every cafe, and I would like to think I have some part in pushing that and propelling that forward. But it was really, really barren then, 10 years ago. So in fact, this industry that has just blossomed so amazingly was not this at all 10 years ago. So I think you guys can all attest to that. So it's just so amazing to see how rich and how much it's flourishing and kind of pollinating now. So that's just the difference I've seen from then to now.
I think it's also along what you're saying. I think the other thing is, I think for so long, this understanding that somehow Ethiopian audiences, whether it be in design or whatever, were somehow, they're okay with a less beautiful thing, So now every salon knows you've got to look nice. Every restaurant now knows you got to look good. Like, so this notion, like finally people get that all human beings are human beings. Like, it's not like one set of human beings think that something is attractive and the others don't get it. I mean, it's just, so I think now that when people still, like when you said, every salon, now you're not going to walk into a place that looks like crap. You're just not going to, So I think that helps,
To add on that, maybe you can tell me there's one mic there too. Okay. So if you can tell me about a project that you have done that has brought a notable social change that you really keep close to your heart.
I think I'm going to go back to Yenya but then again, it's also the approach, okay? By design, nobody knows who made it. So it looks like it organically came out of the earth. Like we didn't go around and say Nike, 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 you know what I mean? So if you present some social thing as like some poor, badly shot, miskin, like nobody's gonna relate to that. It's gotta be as cool as the coolest thing in town. So I think what my takeaway is, I think a lot of the times the approach to doing kind of socially conscious, cool things, they're done in a depressing way. They're like depressing. And I don't think depression is the way to inspire people. I think cool, positive, gorgeous is the way to inspire people. So I really love Yenya for that reason. We approached it like we're selling a product. It's Nike Inc. They're going to be styled. everything is going to be done to the top level. And if we can't find the people to do it here, we're going to bring them in to do it. You know, I think that's one I'm the most proud of. Most of the other stuff, I'm selling stuff. So.
Thanks, ladies. Okay, my next question is going to be for Chef Yohannes and Sam. So in terms of leveraging the creative arts, media, and communication sector, how have you strategically promoted ideas, businesses, and organizations to leverage the best out of them?
So since I started Chef Yohannes brand, actually, when I had plans of beginning that brand, I was in the US and planning my return to Addis as a diaspora. You need to understand that we were perceived in a certain manner as well. So filling that gap, being understood by everyone, being considered as Ethiopian, you know, that took a lot of reflection. So my approach at the time with my team was not, I know better, was more, I want to learn. Because I want to learn is given to anyone. So through that process of traveling around Ethiopia looking for all the food practices, we realized how much we don't know and how much the audience doesn't know. And slowly but surely we got the endorsement as a food brand that later on started defining different things, you know. So I think it's the storytelling, the way we approached it, and then went into my businesses. So the restaurant, for instance, Asabet, used the same approach where we really banked on the story of fish. You know, there's more than 200 varieties of fish in Ethiopia. That's something that a lot of people still don't know, among which we have tasted, documented 12 of these fish. So you get to discover a lot of things when you dive deeper, and depending on how you tell the story, that can be your main focus as well. So Asabet is a restaurant focusing mainly on fish, local fish only, but with so much diversity that we're doing from breakfast to casual to fine dining within the same restaurant. So I think without media, we wouldn't be able to sell new concepts. We wouldn't be able to break eating habits or any habit people have. And I think social media nowadays is really helping the restaurant and hospitality sector into putting their products out there for people to see. Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, my food is amazing.
Okay, maybe to hold the mic there, and if you can add a little bit of your companies besides Asabet, and maybe if you can take us through your other companies and how you sell your ideas and organizations. I have heard that from Sam that you have a vast experience also in the creative sector, and your background is in the arts. So maybe if you can tell us how that has impacted you in terms of media and communications.
Okay, so my background definitely not New York. I think you were talking about NASA. I was mostly based in France, so I studied visual arts in Saint-Etienne. So visual arts is an approach where it's not like fine arts exactly, but it teaches you to do art on any medium. So you learn from sculpture to linogravure to history art, to a bit of everything, but just to understand that art is everywhere and that you can apply art to anything, any approach, even accounting can be art, you know, depending on how you approach it. So I'm not really sure. So I can tell you about our production company, which produced Chef Yohannes show. It was a 30-minute journey where we tried to speed up the pace of the show. At the time, we started with EBS. It was the only private-owned channel at the time. So for that time, our show was quite fast. So we ended up repeating it 5 times a week, and still people were craving for more. So within 30 minutes, we had segments that go from 10 to 8, then to 5, you know, shorter and shorter and shorter, where different concepts explored as well. First part we go to hotels. Second part we go around the country, so in a very small place, it's traditional. And then we get inspired from that to create something new. So the concept of the show allowed creativity as well, which was brilliant. So every time we went somewhere new, I had material to create new food. Other than that, I'm not really sure which company you're talking about. Oh, so okay. So we're about to open a culinary school now, but we haven't opened any of these, so it's going to be based in Toto. So we're trying to fill the gap between, fast skills and so fast specialized skills we do in 3 to 6 months, and then long-term education where we're trying to be a window into that. We're trying to standardize a lot of recipes, traditions that are existent and disappearing already. So I think it's important to identify really our assets within the cultural and culinary perspective, of course.
I think there's a lot of homework there for you in terms of defining the gastronomy as an art, because most people don't perceive it as an art and they really don't consider it to be an art. So there is a lot of assignment for you to be there at your school. So
Absolutely. We're still at a very survival type of eating where we are not very explorative. I'm gonna be honest with you, When you say, fine dining in Ethiopia is raw meat, I do love raw meat. Don't get me wrong, I eat it a lot as well. But when it's out, maybe twice or 3 times a week. But when you offer meal to any company and raw meat is the first idea that pops up, you must realize that the complexity of the food is not really what people want. It's more the ambiance and having your tummy filled, which is mostly survival. You're not exploring taste, because if you are, you'll be looking for it regularly. If we're looking for product quality, you'd see companies with packaging getting better, not worse.
okay, let me go over it again. How have you leveraged? I think you'll be an expert to this question because Spotlight is directly connected to this. How have you leveraged the creative arts, media, and communications to strategically promote ideas, organizations, and businesses? That's what you do.
Can I just say I'm having a good time? So the question is complex and a little bit bigger in dimension. I would say there's been tremendous opportunity for us to promote organizations or ideals, maybe local category brands, and then create a global affiliation with them. There's been several different narratives, different storytellings. We've across several platforms where we've had the opportunity to mobilize a lot of resources. For example, the first round of Green Legacy, Spotlight was responsible for creating the direction to PR. So we've done a whole bunch of stuff for the whole nation to switch from what we used to call Arabsat and Nilesat into our own Etiosat, from creating the brand all the way to 10,000 dish and rolling this whole campaign out. That's mobilizing an entire nation.
Okay, so I know, Naz, you might want to say something on this question, or do you want to say something to this question, or should we move on to the next? Okay, so there is a huge appetite in terms of bringing youth talent to the creative economy sector. So my next question is, how has media and communications how does it have a potential in terms of creating jobs for the youth? How has it helped media and communications? How has it helped in terms of creating jobs and opportunities?
So the question is, how has media and communications helped in creating scalable jobs? Okay. Let me start off saying, using the word tech. Do you guys love the word tech because it overshadows everything that the creative sector does? And it's TECH, and it's a magic thing that you add next to any word, and it elevates the game. I think of a finance guy who's good with spreadsheets, a banker. As soon as they say, I'm in finance, you say, oh, you're the numbers guy. And now then he says, I'm in fintech. He's a Silicon Valley money-moving wizard. So I was thinking, how about we do the same with our sector, and we say, instead of cinema, we say syntech. It's not a filmmaker anymore. It's some forward-thinking, technological advancement in storytelling. We could keep doing this and say design tech week for you. You might get more money that way, actually. So the reason I'm saying that is I think in the heart of all that discussion around tech, it's often overlooked as how much creative sector has propelled technology. If, data centers and AWS cloud, some of the biggest users of cloud computing are media companies. If you delete all your photos and videos, and you're stuck with your Excel sheet and your Word documents, you'll still have a lot of space. Creative sector moved storage, the size that it takes in your computer, the real estate it takes in your computer, and the amount that it has to be able to handle comes from the creative sector. So it has also created jobs in the tech sector. So we can't just look at it like, are you in a media company and you're just hiring photographers, cinematographers? Every time we're using new technology all the time. I think we've been using cameras every year in a different way than we did last year. That's a bunch of people in computer code. No offense to those coders, I'm a science lover myself, but I don't know anybody who goes around saying, hey, check out how beautiful my code is, or gets that many likes or comments around it, versus like, look at this video that I made. So there's a whole lot of people that want to do that, share great stories, and this sector allows for that to happen scalably.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Naz. So my next question is going to be again for Aida and Mati. So how is the media and communication used tool as a talent development? How do we advocate talent development by using media and communication? Creative talents, so that are upcoming, how can we make best out of it?
I'm not sure how to answer this.
How do we use media and communication to promote talents, to bring them up, to develop them? How can we use these mediums to make the best out of? There are YouTube channels, there are so many media streamings that we can use to develop talent in communications. What have you not penetrated as Ethiopians? What can we use to make them better? The industry.
I think it's hard to develop talent. It's very difficult. I mean, not just here, but anywhere in the world. It takes time and dedication, I am training a bunch of kids, and I shouldn't say kids, a bunch of people for my little YouTube thing. And that's a 6 months commitment on my part. Started out 20 people. 6 months is nothing, So it takes time. But in the meantime, what I find frustrating is when you said stuff like YouTube and stuff like, there's a certain level of lack of self-sufficiency, right? If I couldn't find a mentor to teach me, you'd at least watch movies or go on YouTube and, try things. I mean, I go on YouTube and learn things, It's not like I know everything, So it's a very serious time commitment to develop a team. I think when we first started out at Mango, we took about 20 people that have never done anything. And I would say now they probably are the big shots in town. Yeah, they're unaffordable, but it took 10 years to get there. So I'm very selfish. I train teams for myself. I'm not like training it to be nice. I need them to do well, you know what I mean? So it's a big time commitment, but at the same time, young people like if I can go on YouTube and learn stuff, you should be able to go do that. So I don't really find it excusable. And then practice. You don't need you can do it with your phone. Everybody has a phone. So to answer the question, how are we using media to train them? I'm not sure that you can. I think it takes, I don't suppose you can just teach a doctor how to be a doctor unless he goes to medical school, right? So I feel like, I'm not trying to say we're all that, but it's a skill like anything else. So it's no different than any other. I'm sure to be a proper Gembenya, you have to learn how to build gimbs for a very long time. So it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task. And you can't do many people at one time because they need to touch equipment, they need to make films. The only way you get better at something is by doing it. I'm sure you have to design. When you're designing, I'm sure you design 100 different things, so, and somebody needs to feedback. So it's very tough. It's very challenging. But I do want to touch up on what he said, the industry. I think a tiny percentage of our industry is creative. The amount of drivers we hire, okay? The amount of cooks we hire, the amount of it's an entire, when you watch a movie, there's 600 people at the end of that, right? Very few of them are creative people. So the industry, just like he said, I mean, its outreach it's way more than the creative. There's like 10 people. Everybody else is support. So that's my follow-up on that. And I hate to be very American, but I have a Thanksgiving dinner to go to. So I am going to excuse myself, with big apologies, my apologies. Thank you so much. I apologize.
Thank you.
I'm very sorry. Thank you, sorry.
So I would say a bit differently, actually. I would say, you know, when I opened my restaurant, we came up with this ad concept where we really showed the food. The restaurant was pretty much empty. We had none of the equipment that was functioning, but the whole point of the ad was trying to show the type of excellence we were looking for, and to show to our upcoming customers what we'd commit, but mainly to recruit. So we did a recruitment video. In that sense, it allowed us to recruit talent and people who were actually interested. I think Aida is absolutely right. You know, you can't be talented within 6 months. You have to develop that skill. But you can identify who is actually talented and who's just to joke around. Because you have to consider that many sectors within the creative, except of course the media industry now developing, but still I think there's a gap there. It doesn't pay enough. It does not. So it doesn't pay enough. When we do a TV show, it didn't pay enough. So if you were in the US, the industry is so high that any creativity could be appreciated in a certain manner. But in our context, we need to develop fields. We need to be very creative and very specialized that there's no way around you. You become a reference, and then you can set your value. In that sense, I think media really helps us to identify who's who and who's close to what we want to do. It definitely guides you in the process. Yeah.
Because he says it doesn't pay enough, and I thought maybe for anybody to give you some context on some media math, which you don't often hear talked about, and something that I spend a lot of my time doing. Netflix invested $125 million in Africa and released this report called the Social Impact Africa Report. And I was just recently in Kigali, and everybody was talking about that, and everybody thought it was a great thing. I thought it was absolutely shit. It's $125 million spent over 7 years, since 2016 to 2022. That's about $20 million a year for South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria. We ourselves have invested much more than that. And when we come into the local context, I'll tell you there is about 12 minutes that you can exploit in TV advertising. For anybody here who says maybe you should explore digital, it's much cheaper, so I will not even engage that discussion here now. But in free-to-air, it's 12 minutes, that's 12 times 60, that's 720 seconds. An average in the market right now because of price signaling by broadcasters, because they can't homogenize themselves and create a price system that doesn't, gas station across the street is the same gas price at the one across the other street, even in other countries. But here, we get broadcasters such as ourselves, which are charging $20 a second, to others that are charging $4 a second. Coming to his point, I'll illustrate. So let's take the average, it's around 440 birr per second. Within the 12 minutes, we'll make 316,000 birr, maximum, at 100% utilization. Tell me if you go into any supermarket and all the shelves are sold at the end of the day. Never happens. So let's go half. That's 150,000 birr. Chef is gonna come. I wanna do a show with you. Say, okay. He's gonna be like, I need 200,000 birr an episode. I'll be like, chef, what are you eating? So this has led, this makes it very difficult for making content scalably You know, we've been under the pressure of being told, can you make local content, but it's very difficult.
Highlighting gaps and different kinds of issues. Obviously, it's a tool in that sense. In regards to what Chef and Aida and everyone was touching upon in regards to talent, you know, obviously front of house talent, I mean with Dink Media, Dink TV, which we are trying to fashion ourselves as like Ethiopia's MTV. So front of house talent, obviously there's gaps in finding really amazing talent, and then back of, as far as production, and it is quite difficult to find good talent, but I think the onus is on us to invest and grow the industry like we've done with the creative industries here. So with the media and with the food and gastronomy, which you guys also know, tech and food and gastronomy was also included in Design Week, because I also see these as creative industries, right? So this is 10 years ago. So we've worked respectively within our own works to help to build these things up, and this is no different, I think. So the potential is always here, but we have to invest in developing. As far as like resources, I don't have that much cash, but I'm saying we have to invest resources, both financial and also kind of our energies, our time, our minds, so we invest in different ways to kind of grow the industries, but always it does come down to a bottom line, yes. So in order to tell quality stories, so I think Aida's not here to talk about the Yenya thing, which was so impactful for Ethiopia, but it was heavily funded, very well funded project, which has so much reverberating outcome to this day, so it's such an iconic project that continues to this day, but it was backed strongly. So I think it's very important to kind of keep that in mind. So aligning the ideas with the proper backing is very essential. And also with Dink, where you didn't want to touch on digital, which is what we are. So we saw it as a kind of a more nimble way to kind of come. So we reverse engineered, we starting digital, and then our goal is to move to mass media. Myself and my partner Bobby Abisalom. So so we're on the digital side, and we're also in a smaller way finding those same issues of how we want to do good storytelling, we want to hire great talent, but they think because of our quality or whatever that we have millions or trillions really to offer, and that's not necessarily the case. So until the industry as a whole scales up, until we become our own Netflix, or Netflix plants itself here, we have to matababer, and we have to work together and collaborate, and we have to be flexible with budgets. So, whether it's like a partner sponsoring a Design Week, I'm looking at you in the crowd, I'm not going to call out anyone, but there's times when their fiscal budget is only so much, and we have to say, okay, well, we'll work with that. And a talent like Chef Johannes, maybe we cannot afford his normal rate, but he said, you know what, I'll give you 2 hours. So we have to kind of be flexible with each other, and that's the only way the industry can thrive and grow.
Thank you, Mati. I think we have had that flexibility with the British Council as well when we worked. So I completely understand. And seeing how the industries, I feel like there's a lot of gap in terms of talent recruiting and brokering the youth talent and connecting them with the actual creative sector leaders. In this digital era,
in terms of talent recruitment in the creative industry, it's getting to a point where it's extremely frustrating. Right now, all creative agencies, as I know, are looking for a creative director. Did you know that? Yeah, so everybody's looking for a creative director, but there's literally no creative director. If this was Kenya, there would be school where people are taught art direction or creative, graduate as understanding a visual arts and everything. So I think, our good friend Abraham, who's the CEO of Strategic Affairs from the Ministry of Skills and Labor, who actually, co-collaborated and co-founded the Fanos Connect, who's actually been championing it from the government side. He's extremely passionate about the creative industry, and they're also considering, he's exactly like what Nas said. He doesn't understand people's obsession with tech, which is really great, but that's not really the low-hanging fruit, as Nas says. And it's very important that we give a little bit of priority in terms of inspiring people to come to the creative industry in a way that we collaborate with universities and institutions. Right now, for me, if you give me, I don't know, 20 people and I give them a 3 months course, they would have dignified and fulfilling jobs as opposed to going to a 3-year university college. So I also want to pick up everybody's idea on Naz looked after over 600 people at a time, and how do we really get people to understand that there's this sector where people can come in and thrive if they have a little bit of inclination? How can the existing players facilitate that is some of the conversations we want to have.
Let me just add up to that to say that's exactly what we're seeing in our sector as well, to the point that we started training about 24 trainees every 3 months at the restaurant with the idea of creating more experts within the field, because every restaurant right now is just picking employees from one restaurant to the next, and there isn't enough people within the field. Of course, the field doesn't pay enough because the field is not developed yet. But it takes time to do that, so it's important to train as many as we can, and the shorter the term, the faster we will have experts, but it needs to be very compound training, intense training, where you have several hours covered in different departments, and that's what we're trying to cater as well. So it's definitely a big problem for every sector. Yeah.
There's something I often think about is can we have a creative vocabulary? Because when you think of other industries such as finance or engineering, they've had language that they all understand collectively. Like when a finance guy says volatility, leverage, liquidity, everybody else understands it equally the same way. Versus our industry, where a client might say, can you make that vibrant? Can you make that bold? And we do not have a decoded, scalable language. Why is this important? Because training people in the creative sector becomes a very difficult process, because there is no clear benchmark, say like, hey, I need you to make me a laptop, a table, or a phone, where there are clear benchmarks that they can scale against. Every edit on a video is becoming a novel problem. You can't just say to the person that you're training, can you fix the rhythm of that edit? Is like, which part of the edit, what is rhythm, and all that. So one of the biggest hurdles that we have in the creative sector, I think this is a global thing as well, because if there's any clients here who've dealt with creative directors, you probably don't like them, and the creative directors don't like you as well, because they don't know their own language, you don't know theirs, and there's state of Babylon going on. But globally, I think us in the creative sector need to have a lexicon, a language where we can give clear instructions that can scale our operations. For example, for us, we chart shows where we have a chart and we use like an XY axis and say, okay, just arbitrarily plot on the dot where you feel there is intensity going up and intensity going down. And then we overlay with everybody in the office to say, how many of us are experiencing intensity the same way? If you have a few outliers, then you must really unify them. Otherwise, they'll be doing something completely out of your domain. So that has helped us to kind of have a unified language that helps us scale creative. So in a nutshell, the lack of a creative language that is decoded, that is a little bit of algorithmic, is one of the biggest hurdles the creative sector has. Its heuristic nature has shielded it against automation for many years. Although ChatGPT, AI is coming, making headwinds, the enigmatic nature of creative sector still persists.
Okay, I would like to take audience questions. I have actually been texted one, but before that, let me open up the floor to the audience, and then I can dive into the questions.
Your thoughts in regarding to you using media as a tool to create more productive people, seeing how people learn whole professions on YouTube, for example, and how platforms like Skillshare promote productivity. There are the things that we deal with as Ethiopians, from work habits and different mindsets that could be more productive, positive. So how do you see influencing people for positive change using creativity, communications as a tool, and media as a platform?
Design Week Addis Ababa, which is obviously was last week. We just finished and wrapped. So we started in 2015, now 2023, still kicking. But what I noticed with Design Week, even though it's a multidisciplinary festival, we focus on fashion, technology, food, visual communication, everything, all the creative sectors. We had this amazing festival event, and then because it's annual, after the week is over, it's gone from the psyche of the society. So what I realized is we do this amazing thing, and then it's like, so it's a build-up, and then it's nothing, and it's a build-up, and it's nothing. And so when we started Dink, I said, I want to transmute the ideas and the feeling and the spirit of the creative industries into a media context. So I still want to tell the same stories. I still want to cover fashion and tech and culture and communications. I want all of those things still in the mix, but I want it to be active constantly, right? And fresh, and so digital, like we said, make it nimble and still kind of tapping into the same.
By the way, one of the biggest users of AWS Cloud is EdTech, because this whole Coursera, even some of the stuff that ALX is doing, some of the learning modules, it's all on video, and all this video is going on a tech platform, creating jobs for sure. Yes, we do have responsibility as media to create content that educates the public. I'll be honest with you, sadly, the masses anywhere in the world don't look at that kind of stuff, so it's a big dilemma that we have to play, where do we lose out viewers and lose revenue share, or do we just do philanthropy work? Clearly we can't. There's the bottom line in question. From our side, what we started doing about 5 years ago is we have a show called Yetaba Bafta, Masters at Work. And we thought, this was inspired by Mafi as well, because I saw Mafi profiled on TED, and then The Guardian wrote about her, and then Jonas Tadesse, the photographer, amazing photographer, he was also covered by The Guardian. As proud as we are as nation, as Kalab is here with me today, the host of a really awesome Shikala show, Shikala The Hustle, where he talks about complicated concepts like inflation. Not a lot of people know inflation. I have no idea how inflation works. So Kalab explains inflation, and then he contextualizes it with the rest of the world. India experienced in 1960s a devaluation of 67%. So he shows you in the context of everything in the world that your situation in Ethiopia is not unique. So we've used those kinds of platforms to also create educational formats without hammering it on people's head, because really every child that I know does not like school. So what makes us adults think that school is cool if it's not done well? So we use media in a cool way to deliver insightful information, and we continue to do so.
So in regard to the food sector, I'll be honest, it doesn't pay enough. It just doesn't pay enough. Honestly, even I'm ashamed to invite people and be like, yeah, it pays between 5 to 10,000 birr at best, So the only thing you can do is be a reference in something. Because if you are a reference in something, then you can set your price. So unless you're creative, you don't have any other choice. Especially in this emerging country. You have to... Again, not for me, but I'm saying for everyone. You want everyone to be paid better. Let me tell you something that really shocks me, for instance, you say Ethiopian coffee, we label it coffee Arabica, right? But who did this coffee? We did, right? It should have been labeled coffee Ethiopica. But we don't know how to tell the story. So even if we go through the licensing process, there's a million issues and budgets so that you can export coffee. Using whose gauging method? The international one. But if you look even at espresso, espresso was invented by Italians back in the days when they exported all our coffee to Italy, and it molded in their ship when it went to Italy. So they did a dark roast to harmonize the taste. How can they tell us the right way to consume coffee? It's not possible. Just like Champagne region would ensure that you can only...
One more time.
Hi guys, my name is Alex, and it's a great panel so far. I think my question appeals more to the person, the individual. Hello. How do you manage the internal logs? So how do you navigate the creative process and arrive at something that you can equate to success, especially in younger, in this country where it's not really fair to be overly creative. It's not really fair to keep stuff inside and just let it all out in some channel or form. So how do you actually navigate through the thought process of actually doing something artistic and equating it to some success in general? Okay. So this appeals to the individual, the creative individual. So there are a lot of internal monologues, just converging thoughts that you have to single out and actually make into something art, into creative or people or videos or something digital, something. So over time, how do you actually get that from point A where you are successful? So the path is not really clear. So is it do you actually have to learn new ways, or do you actually have to navigate through the entire process of being creative, the pitfalls of being creative? How do you navigate through them?
I think. So is the question, in an industry where you are under a lot of pressure to do certain, you said overly creative, so you're expected to operate within a certain limitation in order to resonate with local consumers?
Yeah, but basically, if you are designing a piece, a masterpiece and stuff, and you know how much you're going to sell it for, then you know the value of that, but you can't actually quantify something that creative, especially in this country. So how do you get success out of being labeled creative, the process?
So my understanding is you have a piece of art, you're trying to sell it for $1 million, and you don't know how to get to that, right?
Basically, how do you become successful? Yeah. Because creative people...
Yeah. You need compound effect, my brother. Years of compound effect to the point that your painting would finally sell. Your first painting will never sell like that. There is time and consistency in any field. And the more people value you for your work and you become a reference in that, and everyone is talking about you, anything you do. Andy Warhol, back in the 19th century, he used to sign pieces of paper and people would sell that, You'd find him anywhere with a big artist, he would sign a piece of paper and you can sell that. That's how he was able to create a value that even his signature could sell. That's not something we can teach you, It's not one specific painting. It's a lot of people need to recognize saying that's value, just like money is.
Okay, if I have understood the question, and we're going to talk about it from just the painting part, art valuation is very complicated. I opened an art gallery last year, and God forbid, my math side kicked in, and I started to approach it from the age of the artist to pricing per square meter. I'm working on it, and I know it's terrible, and they're going to hate me for it. But valuing art is difficult. And I've come to realize it's not the merit of the work that counts. There is a whole politics network system and a perceived value of the artist that is garnered through time with his association. This would be the greatest question that we need to answer. So I don't think we have the answer to this question. You got some?
I'm not saying I have the answer, but I would like to add just some thoughts. And my background was art history, so I feel for you, Naz. No, but I would just say, as far as like being, if I understand as trying to be a creative, but also trying to be like a successful creative, there was one point that was made, which was kind of creating value. And so the value, Andande, when we're working at any field, there is our own self-value, what we think our work is worth. And then there's also the work, the value that the community or others will say. So you have to balance both. It's not just the value you think. That value has to be communicated and received. You have to create value, not just for yourself. You understand what I'm saying? So that value has to be recognized by others, and you have to build on that and have others, and has to grow and compound. And so a valuation of one, I may value myself at 1 million or billion or trillion, but it has to be then recognized externally by others, and then that has to grow, is what I think.
I think this kind of also comes back to the conversation we had earlier about the creative ego. So it's given as a course in schools, yes, but there is a perception that you have for yourself as a creative. There is the creative ego you have for yourself, and there is the audience that accepts that, the consumer end. So I think the success becomes when those kind of two start to balance, and when the people that are like consuming your products as a creative person level up to your creative ego where you see yourself to be. So that is kind of the journey that you have to go through, defining your ego and the product that you produce to be consumed. Any more questions?
I get to have another. So I can't help but notice some really great stuff coming up in Addis, and maybe this question can be directed to Chef, and anyone else can answer on it. Especially in the food industry, with the rise of influencers on TikTok, and so many delivery services and content on the internet. Food consumption has risen in the city. So many restaurants, so many nice restaurants, good-looking restaurants have come. And
I think, it's right now copying from Dubai, the way I'm seeing it right now. It's becoming a lot of bulge eating, a lot of promoting of extra stuff. And since there's a lot of extra stuff, then every restaurant is going into the extra and extra and extra. I don't think that's fully matured yet. I think it's in process. We are also discovering it and seeing how to operate in this market, which is constantly changing. But we're seeing there's a big rise in social media use. As you said, when you have influencers using that, people tend to buy more through influencers rather than paid ads. So there's definitely an interest within that social media approach for restaurants. Can you repeat the question again? I can just tell you it's important.
yeah, with the rise of the food and beverage market, while like disposable income is not available to all, but people keep on, buying into it, I see a pattern of a lot of content going out, influencers, content by restaurants. And how is it that people have bought into this while there are other very basic things that people try to promote, like ideas, maybe peace, maybe just something else. And such luxury has become so normal. So do you see any pattern in it? And do you think that we can use, this phenomena to promote other things?
Honestly, I just don't think it has fully matured yet to say it will grow in this direction. You can use it in this specific manner. I think it's still growing. I think you need more data from Naz in regards to which restaurant is really applying it to perfection. Oh, data guy too, no? We still have a lot of data missing in that.
So I think the main reason why we're not even going into this media and communications as Ethiopians is we don't have enough database to back up to say like this station showing this program at this time is getting this many views and you should promote that there. Yes, there are numbers, but we don't have enough numbers. How many people come to your restaurant watching your TikTok videos? How many people have registered to Dunk TV watching that? How many people have come to Design Week at this, showing the media and comms that we have posted? So yes, it's starting, like when you RSVP to events, it has become a trend nowadays to kind of ask you where you have found that information from to kind of know if we should keep doing the media push, if we should send you emails, if we should invite you to events using text message or phone call or create ads on social media. So what has their journey been like in respects of Ghana TV, in respect of the promotions that you do when clients come to you and ask you?
As well. So even Nielsen, one of the biggest data aggregators and data analytics companies on research firms on this idiom, finds it very difficult to say somebody was watching this channel for this many hours while they were watching something else. And in terms of attributing drive to an action, let's say somebody saw a paid ad of Chef Johannes on Instagram where he was promoting some new thing that they invented, because they're always inventing stuff every week. They see this ad and then they click and they're directed towards their page per se. There is no way you can say that's what drove the action, because they might have seen a billboard or they might have seen a TVC. These marketing endeavors work in totality. There is a temptation for clients to always look at like as direct one-to-one attribution. And this is the biggest problem like agencies like Sammy will face, where a client will say, hey, you know, most people say it, they came to my restaurant because they saw an Instagram ad or a Facebook ad. But to arrive at that decision was a holistic effort. We have a really difficult data mining problem here in media. There is a lot of anecdotal evidence. Just because a few people see one show on one TV station, they'll think that's the #1 station, or they'll think that's the #1. They anchor it based on the information they got recently. And there's also a lot of data distortion. Hey, listen, if I'm a media planner and I want to get some discount from you, I can distort data somewhere else from the supply chain and then come to you and say, hey, you know, you're not really the best restaurant, so give me a discount. I'm projecting here. So there's a huge need to get good data. So in a nutshell, attributing action from an audience or consumer point of view from a singular platform is a big no-no, and clients should stop doing that. And agencies or any, my goodness, the amount of digital marketeers that are out there these days is shocking. It's like ChatGPT digital marketeers that say people drive reaction to your business because of digital, and that's all they think is what is working. So, and that shouldn't be the case. And we should be more prudent the way we mine data. We should apply more rigor. We should ask hard questions, which is not happening. And I advise anybody, even outside of media, to ask the hard questions. How do I know this is working? How do I know that's not working?
Yeah, he brought up a little bit about ethical media buying too. In our country, it's becoming extremely rare for advertising agency or media planning and buyers to advise their clients based on a substantiated data, especially on several broadcast platforms. So like you said, there's a lot of multi-platforms, real-time data these days, but in our country, broadcast is extremely relevant for several products, FMCG products, real estate, different industry. Like Naz says, if Naz begins to explain the difference between active viewing and passive viewing, and if people understand which channels are perceived to be those that are massively consumed and which are not, it's actually, some of it is actually quite the opposite. In several periods of the week, in different times of the day, it's so sophisticated. So I know we don't have a real-time data, so what we do is we actually try to take the anecdote and do a little bit of estimate of our own, do a little bit of research on our own, and see if we can use it. Other than that, like Nas said, it's a little bit manipulated.
If anyone else want to add? Okay. Any more questions before we close the panel?
Yeah, I think we'll take 1 or 2 questions, and then that will be the end of our session. We'll have a concluding statement.
Hi. So my question actually sort of revolves in all of the sectors that we're looking at. There's fashion here. There's. Can you hear me? Okay. So this question sort of applies very differently to each of the sectors that you're involved in, whether it's media, communications, fashion, culinary arts. In Ethiopia, it feels like there's a very wide berth, a very big diversity in terms of, like populations nationwide. So there's a difference between just being creative, and then there's another element to it where you're creating culture, new culture. In each of the sectors, how do you guarantee that the content that you curate, any creative direction that you take, will take hold? It will, it will carry the heritage that you're trying to create, because there's a very distinct threshold that you have to pass to create something new. But then there's a big risk that you're taking with every creative step that you take that it might not take hold. So how do you guarantee, because there must be a certain level of certainty for you to jump? That is the biggest question that I have for, like, in my mind right now, and I'd like to hear from you.
So the question is, how do you ensure that whatever content you creatively produce is democratic to everybody? How do you make it inclusive?
Not just that, but it's something new that you're creating. You can't be certain that it will create culture, even contribute to culture. It will become part of the heritage.
Define culture for me so I know what I'm answering.
It's very hard to define that.
Then the question is hard there. Okay. All right.
But we can actually say it's something shared, something generational. It can transcend time, can transcend generations. How do you?
Okay. All right. I'll answer this one in the way I've understood it. All right. We're humans. Everybody in this planet, we're all humans, in case we forgot that. And we have shared stories, shared experiences of survival. I mean, look at Braveheart. Braveheart works in China, in French Polynesia. It works in Fiji. It works in India, because these are universal plots, universal ways of storytelling. Once upon a time works everywhere. If we can tell stories in a very structured, systematic way, I think we'll be able to tap into everybody else and affect culture. It's only when you start making the super artsy and niche content where there's an audience for that, but that doesn't work at mass scale. So we have to be systemic at deconstructing stories that have existed, that have impacted societies, and they usually share a formula. Everybody loves rags to riches. Everybody loves, the Romeo and Juliet, unrequited love, the calling of a hero, the fighting the monster. And we just got to tell stories in that order very well, and we can tap into everything.
Keep in mind, there's different sectors. Music sector, for instance, with the K-pop industry really popping out right now. There's different ways of making that as well. It's not like one set formula. It's how do you tap into people's emotion, one that everyone relate to. The more detailed you are into identifying that, then the more people will relate to that. K-pop is able to assemble a whole team and making music, 10-minute music that has different genres, This way it approaches everyone, and everyone is interested in it. That's one approach as well. So it's not like there's anything set in stone. There is always room to create something that can touch generations.
You good? Should I? Okay. So.
Yeah, it works. Thank you, everyone. That was for the wonderful discussion. I have a quick question, maybe personal. Knowing what you know now, the shortage in talents that we have, the pay We've said that creative industry doesn't pay, and all the things, good or bad. Would you do what you do again, all over again? If you go back probably 10 years ago, would you be happy? Would you go into it happily?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, you have to choose this sector, or I guess the sector chooses you. So as a creative, I'm doing exactly what I want to do. You know, I've kind of designed my own life and by my own terms. Not to say that it's the easiest thing. Like you said, it's not always the best paying, but you have to kind of create multiple, you know, ideas and projects and activities to meet whatever lifestyle that you're, you know, rooting for or trying to reach. So it definitely was not easy, especially like we were saying earlier, when there was no lexicon, there was no word design, there was no word creativity so many years back. But step by step, I think, you know, you tread a path that others have before you treaded, and it gets a little bit smoother, you know, step by step, I think. So I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love what I do, and I'm blessed to be able to do that.
Absolutely, I would say the same. And in regards to the creative sector, you know, it's really, you know, you need to understand that we all live different realities just based on what we choose to perceive. So being able to be in the creative industry, create something, be able to identify a jewel in something, you know, it's a lifestyle as well. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, even going back, I would say, wow, with all the things that we've learned, I've never been in a sector or anything, and I have quite multidisciplinary set of skills, but I love the media sector. Is science and art meet, and I would continue to do this. And we're just starting. We've been around for 7 years, approaching 8. When we launched, we were the second privately owned free-to-air, guys. Second. Then you had ETV, and then you have regional channels, and EBS, the pioneers of private TV. So in 7 years, right now, the industry has grown by 850%. I don't know any other industry that's grown that fast in our sector. There's more ads. The quality of ads has improved. Have you guys noticed that? In the last few years, the quality of ads, the quality of production, the number of TV stations going out, the number of directors, producers popping up, and I would never trade that for anything else. Although, doesn't pay enough, as Chef says.
Now I'm obligated to agree with everybody. This sucks, man. No, I always say Nas should have been a leader with a world domination obsession with his mathematics and physics background and probably capability of producing a nuclear weapon. I would be his nuclear Nadal. He would be General Aladdin. And that's what we should have been doing, I guess. We're missing out, man. But I would say, yeah, this is a very interesting stuff that we're doing. And it's been a very rewarding journey for us, and I wouldn't change it for anything. And for everybody, for Red Communication, for example, has it been 2 years since Red Communication started? 3.5? Whoa, you guys have been popular the past 2 years, I would say. And I think the first 2 years is when you're gonna decide whether you're gonna stick it out or not. After that, it's just, I wouldn't say smooth sailing, but it's absolutely brilliant, especially
conversations that we have had. Thank you so much. There is refreshments served, and we're gonna do a bit of networking. And Okay. I'd like to give a shout out to Gaveta Wine and Asawit for sponsoring this amazing session. And Design Week. Okay.
That spotlight.
And Kana. Thank you all so much for being here. You have been amazing. Also our panelists, thank you so much. Let's network, get to know each other, and enjoy the refreshments.